Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 127 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
Hello. And Mondo.
¿Qué pasó?
There you go.
How about them Niners?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty stoked. Well, by the time people listen to this, I might not be that stoked.
You might not be stoked anymore.
But yeah, man, it's cool. Like I've said before that I'm not a giant sports fan, as in I refuse to let sports affect my mood and affect my. I'm allowed to be upset for like maximum of 15 to 30 minutes after the game is over. Or if I get drunk and rant about the Golden Knights, another story. But I made a conscious effort this year to not watch much football, not watch my own team play at least, because I found out it was giving me bad anxiety to the point where I didn't want to do anything else. I'm like, no, I got to get over that. Sometimes I think it's more fun when your team sucks, and when you win, it's like, oh, hey, it's a surprise. But when you have expectations, and then you get all these fair weather fans that just are like the worst. It's worse when you, because now, of course, the Niners now, they're fourth NFC Championship game in 5 years. We're a bandwagon team now. But as I say, if you weren't around for the 2-14 seasons, you can go fuck right off. Unless you're like 7, then come on. But,
For all our 7-year-old listeners.
All our 7.
If you're 7 listening to this, why? And send us an email. We will get help. We will get help. But if we do lose next week to the Lions, I'm okay with it. I think the cool thing in the NFC side of the equation is you have two really awesome stories. You have Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, potentially taking his team to the Super Bowl and potentially winning, and you also have the Lions, which have never seen a Super Bowl. So how can you be mad if the Lions beat my team? How can I be upset? I'm not going to be upset. I'll root for them. If they beat us, I'm going to root for them in the Super Bowl, bar none.
I'm for sure not going to root for either the Ravens or the Chiefs at this point. So.
The Ravens kind of.
I have no idea what's going on, so that's not conversation.
The Ravens kind of soured me when one of their players punched his wife in the face and knocked her unconscious in an elevator, and they just went ahead and just brought her back. I brought him back. Like, you can just come play again. It's fine. Like, you didn't bet in the game. All you did was knock your companion unconscious. Like, oh, it's not fucking. God, I hate the NFL sometimes. Most of the time, actually. And I just don't like Patrick Mahomes. I just don't like him.
I'm just tired of them. I'm just tired of them being there every year. And also, I know everyone's tired talking about it, but I just don't want the Taylor Swift hype for the
I don't care about that because that's not her fault. She can't control that, right?
No, I'm not. That's not her thing. I'm saying the media will just not shut up about it because there's always that extra week between, for the Super Bowl. So it'll just be more annoying.
Man, I'll be honest. So I saw Kelsey score a touchdown today, and he looked up there and he made the heart hand with the sign with his hands.
Like,
which I hate, by the way.
I'm happy with that.
But I thought that was kind of cute. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I just care about the constant between game talk and stuff that people need to have something to talk about. So, yeah.
I can't remember. I was in a hotel room somewhere, and I still remember what I ate because I had a buffalo steak that night. It was delicious, but I can't remember where I was because I'm always somewhere. And I still remember I was watching that Netflix show, Quarterbacks, the one they did where they highlight him, Patrick Mahomes, Marcus Mariota, and I think it was Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins is a super big religious person, but he comes off as like a genuinely nice human being.
Right.
And then you have Marcus Mariota, who got a lot of flack because he decided to have season-ending ACL surgery after he got removed from being a starter. Also because he's a Vegas native, by the way. He wanted to spend time with his brand new baby and his wife. Like, I'm like, yeah, that guy's my hero, but they try to make him the heel. Then you have Patrick Mahomes, who, I don't know what they were trying to do with that show, but after watching that show, I'm like, I don't like this man now. He comes off like such a douchebag on that show.
Yeah, he's cocky, but at least he can back it up.
That's true, but you can be humble though and still be amazing. Like, you don't have to be.
I know.
And there's nothing wrong with being confident, being a little bit cocky, but every single time something doesn't go his way and he looks at the refs, I'm like, come on, dude, just make it. And he sounds like Kermit the Frog. Like, fucking, I love Kermit the Frog, but there's only one goddamn Kermit, and it's not you, Patrick Mahomes. It ain't easy being green.
The meme that said, like, it always looks like his head is too big and too small for his helmet at the same time.
Well, I think he started wearing some new style of helmet to help with concussions, which I'm not going to knock anyone for, wanting to talk. Well, yeah, for wanting to not CTE.
All right. Well, tonight we are doing our second episode of Black Mirror. Oh, sorry. Two quick announcements. One, by the time this comes out, we'll have just dropped our Joe Lynch interview. An excellent time. We talk Suitable Flesh. He gives us some very cool trivia about the making of that movie. And then he also talks about two of his favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes and kind of how Tales from the Crypt has influenced his work. So please go check that out. It's a good time. Other announcement is that the week after this comes out, I'll be at CreepyCon with Al Katz. So come say hi. Al actually has a table, so I'll be around there and just kind of roaming in general.
And where's CreepyCon at, Jason?
It's in Ontario, California, not Canada.
The other Ontario.
Okay, but tonight, again, like I said, we were talking the second Black Mirror episode, season 1, episode 2, 15 Million Merits, which came out on December 11th, 2011. Jody,
hold on a second. Before we get into this, I have started looking at the list of guests that will be at CreepyCon.
Uh-huh.
And I will now be 1 degree separated from Nev Campbell because Jason will have been in the convention with Nev Campbell.
That works. No, I think I've like walked by her desk before, her like table thing. So
did you say anything? Did you say hi?
No, I mean, no, there's like a huge line, but like you can still like, yeah.
Okay. That's fun. Yeah, it's cool.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Somehow that's less cool than meeting someone who looks like Nev Campbell.
All right, Joy, I know you're waiting. Tell us what happens.
All right. So before I get into this, let me just say I hate that I missed last week because it snowed in Tennessee like a year's worth of snow in one night. Like it's literally like we get like 8 inches of snow, and we got 8 inches of snow last Sunday. And so I've been at home all week long. I had left the house for an hour and a half on Wednesday, and then it snowed again the next day. And then I left the house for like an hour today. I'm like a bear coming out of a cage. I have no idea what's coming, or out of a cave. I have no idea what's going on. I've spent this entire week in limbo, not knowing what day of the week it is. And so I missed last week, and now I get to join in here. And
yeah, if you have any like quick thoughts, maybe when we're done with talking about this one, about the first episode, you can go ahead and.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to get too much into a different episode while we're on this one. It's fine. I just want to say I do like Black Mirror a lot. Like as a series, I'm excited to get into it. Prior to watching Black Mirror, I was a big fan of Charlie Brooker. He had a show on British TV called Newswipe, where he talked about like news and politics with like a humorous kind of rant about things. The reason I'm bringing that up is it's going to be relevant later as we talk about this episode. That was his thing. He railed against politics and entertainment and talked about how vapid and stupid they were. And he's an entertainer and a politician as far as like on TV. So important stuff. But anyway, big fan of this. I watched this years ago and I just watched it again today. And so let's get into what Black Mirror episode 2 is. Okay, so we meet our main character. His name is Bing, played by Daniel Kaluuya. I had to look up how to say his name because I've always said it like Kahlua, like the liquor, but it's pretty close to that. Like it's almost that. But Daniel Kaluuya plays Bing, and he lives in this room, and everybody in this society lives in rooms that are very small, almost cell-like rooms that have big display screens on all the walls, the ceiling, everywhere you look, there's displays. And on those displays, there'll be shows, there'll be things that look like YouTube video type stuff, content, very like, cheaply produced stuff, and a reality TV show. That's like, I guess for Britain, it'd be X Factor or American Idol. And these shows are playing all the time. Ads will pop up, and throughout the day, you have to get on a stationary bike, pedal that bike, and through pedaling that bike, you earn merits. Those merits can be used to buy your food, your toothpaste. They're all interactive screens. Like it's not quite a touch screen; it's more like a Kinect, like for the Xbox. You kind of wave your hand around in front of it and interact with it. And you earn your merits, and then you can, pay for everything with them, including like skipping the ads. There's a porn ad for Wraith Girls that pops up over and over, and Bing always skips the ad. But there, your entire society is built around this idea that you're generating electricity on these bikes and you're using the money merits that you get from that to live off of.
And one thing to keep in mind too, how you said that he can skip an ad. He has to pay credits to skip an ad.
You have to pay for that.
And when he tries to close his eyes, a loud sound blares down on him. So you can't even like not watch the ad if you don't want to. It's so
to watch the ads.
creepy.
It's like being trapped in a phone. Like if you like in a mobile game that you can't get out of and the ads are always there.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
So one day he hears a woman named Abby singing in the bathroom. And he says, "You have a great voice." And he said, "You should audition for this reality show. It's called Hot Shot." And everyone knows about it. It's a big thing in the society. You need to audition for it. In order to audition, though, you have to have 15 million merits. And that takes a long time to build up. But Bing actually has that because his brother died and all of his merits got transferred to him. So he does. He has 15 million merits, which, basically he can buy anything he wants. He can skip any ads he wants. But he said he would be willing to give her 15 million merits so that she could audition and he would go with her. And she goes for it. They go to this audition. And like I said, it's very much American Idol. There's even a Simon Cowell type figure. And she sings her song. Well, before she even gets to her song, there's 3 judges. Again, American Idol style, 2 dudes and a Paula Abdul in the middle. And one of the dudes is named Wraith. He is the guy from the Wraith Girls porn channel. And literally the moment she gets up on stage, he says, "Show me them titties." Like that's his, from the beginning, he starts talking about her, like objectifying her. She sings her song.
I want to fight that guy.
He's infuriating. She sings her song and they say, she did great. It's a beautiful song, but she's too beautiful. She's got too good of a body. She needs to get on Wraith's channel and become a porn actress. And if you do that, then from here on out, you will never have to ride a bike again. You'll be taken care of. And you'll kind of break out of this life of drudgery. All you got to do is sell your body for it.
Right. And they also say, we've had too many singers, or we met her before there or whatever. And they also give her a drink called Compliance, which I guess is just to make her more agreeable to whatever they do to her.
This very much had a Brave New World kind of feel to it for me, where everyone's taking Soma all the time to just kind of keep everything chill. And that's what's happened with this Compliance drink is it's just to keep everybody kind of chill, nobody arguing, nobody fighting. So anyway, they say, what you really need to do is join Wraith Babes. And they put her on the spot right there, and all the people are yelling at her through this little virtual world, and she says yes. Bing gets dragged off. He's trying to get her to stop, but he gets dragged off. So in his room back at the little place, he sees an ad for Wraith Babes come up with Abby in it. And this isn't just like a phone sex line. This is like nasty, hardcore, like abuse kind of stuff. Like the women have streak crying mascara. They have fingers shoved in their mouth. It's nasty. But it's being advertised all the time.
We don't kink shame here, Dads.
It's totally fine.
It's exploitative though, because
in the context of this,
it feels very gross in that after you see what happens to Abby, you feel like these women are only there because of the promise of a better life based on what they had to deal with before. Like no one's like, people nowadays, there's a lot of sex workers out there, and sex work is valid work, but they're doing their work by their own free will and because they want to do that kind of work, not because they're being forced into it by this Wraith. I want to fight that man.
Right. Yeah. No, that's something I want to talk about with this episode. And we'll get into it more later, I'm sure. But there is a way to do sex work in a, very affirmative, positive way. You make this decision. That's not what happened here. This is somebody who basically had no more options getting sucked into a world she didn't want to be a part of. Okay. But he sees this ad, he tries to look away, and obviously when he closes, he doesn't have enough merits left to skip the ad. He tries to close his eyes so he doesn't see her in these scenes. The thing beeps at him, turns red. He has to watch the video. And not just once. He has to keep on watching it over and over as this ad pops up. And he gets so frustrated with it, he starts beating on one of the walls and breaks one of the screens and ends up with a big, like, sliver of glass that he hangs on to. And so then Bing begins, like, living super frugally and spending all of his time on the bike trying to earn money. He keeps looking, he got a stamp on his hand when he got to the Hot Shots game, and he keeps looking at that to remind him what he's working for. And what he's working for is to build up 15 million merits so that he can go on Hot Shots. And we see him kind of practicing a little dance routine. And he goes on, he earns his merits through scrimping and saving and eating scraps left over from other people. And when he gets on, he says, I'm an entertainer, I'm going to do my little dance. And he starts doing his dance, but then pulls out the shard, holds it to his neck where he's going to stab himself, and begins on a rant. Basically, it's kind of stream of consciousness about, how this system they live in is heartless. It's artificial. It uses people. People don't see people as people. And this is this exploitive system. And he goes on and on about it. And at the end, the judges go, well, that is the most heartfelt speech we've heard this season. And we want to offer you a show where you can do this twice a week, the same kind of thing, holding the shard to your neck. And so in the end, we see Bing in this very nice apartment. He's got orange juice available for him to pour. He doesn't have to get out of the little machine. He's got a great view, maybe, of trees. Maybe it's screens. I don't even know. But it looks nicer. He's not surrounded by the screens at all time. And he gives his angry rants twice a week, 30 minutes a week, as now a part of the system while he complains about the system. And that's it.
All right. Mondo, start us off.
All right. So there's a lot going on in this episode, and there's a lot to be. There's a lot of stuff on here, and by the way, Jody, the more you talked about it, the more I am. I said before the episode that I didn't love this, but I kind of did, and I think it frustrated me. It made me angry in ways, but that's good. When it can, it didn't make me angry like it's terrible film, writing or anything like that. It made me angry because of it's got a real parallel to our world today, and the sad piece is you have these people that Abby being a great example of it, who would do anything to step away from the mundane existence of just being on a exercise bike all day and earning credits. And I feel a lot of times, especially, I don't know about you guys, but the older I get, routine can be a motherfucker, for lack of a better term. Sometimes you get stuck in a routine and it does feel like life is kind of hopeless. And I think a lot of people, if given that choice, would take the choice she took. I don't fault her at all for that. I fault the surrounding environment around her for pushing her towards that choice. For the gentleman, the only thing I'll say I did not like is that I think it would have been even a more profound statement if he'd have killed himself on live TV, and then they could have done something to show how that had the best rating of all time or something like that for that show. And the other piece was those judges, when he threatened to kill himself, that one judge goes, just do it. Like, just don't get blood on me because I'll beat you back to life. I'm like, you fucking piece of shit. They didn't care about his life. They care, again, about the money and the ratings and what's going to come from that. And it also shows more how, it's one of the things that, God, I'm not going to get too political here, but one of the things that politicians try to do is they try to make us all think we're divided. When the reality of it is the dividing line isn't between, races or color. The dividing line is between classes, and it's really this elite trying to keep everybody else fighting so no one can ever rise up and ever become better. And this is kind of what it's reminding me of is people just as commodities. Because when you think about it, when you're given a social security number and you pay taxes, you're a commodity. You're earning money and you're taking a percentage of that and giving it to the government who's funneling it wherever. And I think this episode is a very, very grim kind of look at that. And also the bombardment of media, I think, is another big piece of this, because there's a lot of people out there that I think who is it? I think Michael Cera refuses to buy a smartphone. He uses the flip phone because his mentality is, he goes, he feels like we're getting bombarded by so much information, and the goal is to keep us docile and keep us entertained with the lady. Granted, as a guy who just ranted about football for 15 minutes, I'm part of the problem. I'm not going to say I'm not, but it's true that we're given all these distractions, like podcasts, all this media to kind of sometimes close us off from seeing the real world that's around us and out there. And I thought that him breaking the TV screen and using that as his what was going to be a suicide implement was kind of a really cool and very symbolic of breaking that glass ceiling or breaking that mold and stepping outside of it.
I would think, though, if he had succeeded in his mission, it wouldn't have been as bleak of an episode, even though he would have died, because he would have at least made a statement.
Right.
I think what this episode was trying to say is even your rebellion against the system can be used by the system for the system's benefit.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good point.
Like, it's bleak. Like, as we get into the Black Mirror episodes, like, there's going to be a lot of bleakness in there of, like, the system is so rigged that even railing against the system can be used by the system. You know, like the nonconformist shopping at the mall and wearing clothes to be like, fuck you, everybody. But you bought them at the mall, and all of your friends wear the same clothes and buy the same brands. And the bands that are like anti-establishment, they still sell merch that you wear. And like,
and all the clothes are being made by the same company. All the clothing stores are made by the same company. I'm sure like Hot Topic is probably owned by like same places, Gap or Banana Republic.
Not a knock on punks, but I still remember in high school when you'd have those punks that would walk around with the $250 leather jackets that their parents bought them, and the expensive Doc Martens or New Rock boots, and the hair, which you obviously went and spent money on, like, and all like that. But you have an anarchy patch on. You do realize that that's a completely 100% against what you're presenting here.
An anarchy patch bought at Walmart. You know,
right? Like, I mean, it's all the rebellion becomes a feature, not a bug.
I think the depressing thing is I think as we get older, we tend to accept it more.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're younger and you're still kind of idealistic, and not saying you can't be older and be idealistic. I think we all have talked before about how, you know, our goals in this world are very simple. It's we want everyone to just accept each other for who they are and love each other, and there's no place for hate. But I think when you're younger, though, you have you're more apt to rally against the status quo and rally against taxes or whatever. Who knows? But like when you get older, I think you fall once that routine just becomes life, and it becomes another piece of life, and you don't really feel as slighted. But then I'll watch something like this. At the end, I was a little bit heated. I was a little bit upset.
Yeah. This episode, I think, is a great episode. I missed last week. I like this one a lot better than last week, but it's an episode that makes you angry, or it does me anyway. Like it's maddening.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hop in. I like this episode a lot. One of my all-time favorite movies is Network. Are you guys familiar with Network?
Yeah. I've honestly never seen it. I know what it is.
So it's basically a longtime anchorman is told that he's about to be fired. So he goes, and then, like, you only have like a week worth of broadcast left. So he goes on and says, I'm being fired. And as my last act as a journalist, I'm going to kill myself on air.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone like goes crazy about it. It becomes like this huge buzz story. And then they say, oh no, we love it. Keep going. Keep talking about that. And then he ends up going off and becoming like his own like talk show. He brings in like all these crazy, just like all those like little videos. He brings like all these crazy personalities, and it kind of spirals off from there. So this reminds me a lot of Network, which is my all-time favorite movies. It reminds me a lot of those kind of trends in the late aughts, early 2000s games like Second Life. That was kind of like living your life online, because a lot of all the characters on here had like avatars, and they were buying things digitally. So like you could actually buy the piece of glass that he was using, like a digitized version. That was funny.
I didn't catch that piece. That's crazy.
I am curious, does everyone live in one of these places, or do some people choose to live in these places? I was a little unclear.
I kind of got the impression that this was kind of normal life for most people to be in this kind of situation.
I saw that. See what I'm saying? Is this being like the service industry or something to that effect? Because you still have you have to think other people do have to have different lives, because there was a group of team dressed in yellow that were cleaning everything, so they obviously don't ride the bike, so they have to get their merits a different way. So I'm assuming that there's different walks of life, and obviously the celebrities.
I mean,
has got
It's that's kind of beside the point, but that was just a question I had. I love the ideas here. I do think this episode runs a little long, just as like from a film standpoint, as like a critique compared to last week's episode, which is just like very kinetic. This one's a little more slower, more contemplative, which is fine. It's just me. I feel like it meanders slightly. Like they could cut out 5-10 minutes. I think this would have been a lot tighter. I do love that woman with the white hair who keeps auditioning. Is just kind of standing around. I kind of liked her character. Daniel Kaluuya, he's always good at everything. He's in Nope and Get Out and Black Panther, and this was like 5 years before any of that. So it's cool to see him kind of not unknown, but kind of this might have been his like international breakout role. Abby's played by Jessica Brown Findlay. Again, a lot of English TV, but she's on Downton Abbey. The director, Euros Lyn, he did a bunch of Doctor Who, and he did some of the Marvel's Daredevil show. Those on Netflix.
Good show.
I love that show.
Great show.
That was a great show. And I love the look. Like the production design is really cool. I'm trying to figure out like which parts were green screen, which parts were actual screens. It's very interesting. I was reading about so there's that last scene where he's kind of in his apartment and he sees the greenery, and we're not sure if it's a TV screen or whether it's actual greenery that you can see. And supposedly, I just read online a little bit that like it tracks with the camera where no other backgrounds do that. So that's supposed to be a hint that that's actually he's reached a level where you can actually see outside.
See real. Well, because one of the things he keeps saying throughout the whole episode is he wants something real. Like he's tired of this artificial world. He eats apples for his lunch. The reason he gives Abby the money is because he's like, this is something real that can happen. Like
but
that's motivation.
Even the apples are like packaged too.
Right. Even the apples have a wrapper on them. Yeah.
It's almost like they should develop an apple with a natural protection against the elements. I don't know.
I mean, I definitely have seen online like a banana that's been peeled and then wrapped in plastic and put on a thing for people to buy.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It already had. Why'd you take it out of its original packaging?
I will say I love the video game that they were playing. I kind of want to play that, where it's like you're just kind of holding your hands, which I guess is probably I never had the Kinect, but that's somewhat how the Kinect worked. But that looked a lot of fun. I was like, okay, I'd play that game.
Is the video game shooting service workers? Because it looks like they're shooting the guys who clean.
I was curious.
Like I feel like that's another layer of like division in this society that they've built is like everyone looks down on the people who clean up, and then they play games where they murder them. Like, so they're poor, but they still have people who are poorer than them that they can like blame for everything.
I mean, it's a common thing if you ever work service industries. You'll meet people who they probably make like I used to laugh, and Apple paid me very well, but people would always just shit on me and think they're better than me because I didn't work in retail. Yeah. And I think some people who, when they have that, just with I guess a little bit of power, they let it go to their heads because that's all they have. So, and I think George Carlin used to kind of say, he goes, the rich people keep the poor people around to scare the shit out of the middle class. Because the middle class just wants to know they have it better than these people do. And I think that's kind of what you brought up with them, with the hierarchy of service workers there.
Yeah.
Because there's that one guy who's just kind of a jackass. That's also on the bikes.
Oh,
he's like super punching the floor. Overall, again, a lot of cool ideas. I did love his dance that he did to try to get on. That was real fun. Again, you didn't really need that. That's why like I like how they put little bits of levity in the show, in this episode, to like make you kind of giggle through like the cringe. Because there's no reason for him to dance. He could have just pulled out the glass and done what he did immediately.
Yeah, I think that's something that Black Mirror does well. You know, Charlie Brooker is a comedian. Like that's his trade before Black Mirror, and so there are moments like that kind of soften some of the blow a little bit, but not enough that you don't feel bad after it's over.
It doesn't take you out of it. It's organic it's organic to the universe, but it's still like doesn't need to be there per se, but it fits.
Right.
It's still funny. Like, and then he gives at the very end, he's giving his rant. He's holding the piece of glass. And at the very end, he like just drops the whole persona. It's like, and see you next week. And then he puts like the piece of glass in this like lined container. Like it's just
this definitely feels like, a story about how the same system that you hope can free you from this life of drudgery can exploit you in ways that you didn't even know were possible. Well, Abby wanted freedom. She got exploitation. And even being like, he got the penthouse, but he's just being exploited too. Like his passionate words don't mean anything because they're just being used for entertainment purposes.
It's become another product.
Yeah. And he's saying he's been exploited, but he's just reached a level now where he doesn't have to bike anymore. So he's okay with being exploited because it means he doesn't have to do the daily grind.
Yeah.
And it's very, very telling about our modern society. The other aspect is the kind of America's Got Talent show or whatever. Do you know anyone that's ever auditioned for that here in the States?
Mm-hmm.
So I know someone that did, and they're actually a fantastic singer. And they just got told, no, you're good. So they go through a panel of judges first,
right,
who then decides who gets to go on TV and go to the 3 judges. So there are people who are bad, obviously, that make it to the celebrity judges.
Mm-hmm.
How fucked up is it that these panel of judges are telling them they're awesome, building them up just so they can get shit on national TV?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that some people don't care, right? They know, they get it. They're like, I'm just going through the motions. I want to be on TV. I'm going to make an ass of myself. That's totally cool. If that's like your thing, totally cool. But I wonder how many people go home legitimately heartbroken over what they're told by Paula Abdul or whoever. And I'm not knocking her. It's the first name that came to my head. I forgot the dirtbag name. Yeah, Simon and Randy. But I wonder how many people get heartbroken because of that. And I think those shows have done harm when it comes to the youth of America. Whereas I think people think the way you have to make it or the way to make it in your trade, whether you're a comedian or a singer, is to go on this show and become big. When the reality of it is the way you should really, you can just go start a shitty band in the garage with your friends and just play and get better. Go do open mic nights until you get better. And I think people are being sold this false hope and being told this is the only way you can. I mean, and that's whatever. But the scary part is when you start telling people and trying to train people that this is the only way you can escape these restraints is by becoming big on the show. Whereas no, there's many ways you can do it. It's just different.
But I think this episode speaks to something that, most of us can relate to. Like who hasn't had the thought of one day you win the lottery or you make it big and like everything changes in one day, you have this big moment. And I think all of us can look and go, yeah, that's something I've dreamed about before in the past. I know I definitely have. I remember as a little kid, like filling out the Publishers Clearinghouse things that my grandma would get. I'd fill them out. I'd send them back in. Like I wanted Ed McMahon to show up,
It's kind of, I live in Las Vegas, right? Where that's what our whole economy is based on, is people thinking they're going to come here and leave millionaires. And the reality of it is these casinos are so damn big because we take in record profits from people that lose money.
Right.
And that's a whole nother exploitation thing I don't want to get into because most of my money comes thanks to casinos, but that's a whole other story.
Jody, you have the floor.
Oh, just in general about the episode. I've been jumping. What am I supposed to be talking about here? No, but I think it's a really good episode. It's something that I feel is very relatable. They do a good job of making you care about these characters in such a short time. Even though Daniel Kaluuya barely speaks, like he man a few words in this episode, I feel his struggle, of the daily grind of having to get up and do the thing and just wanting something more out of life. Like I understand what that's like. The relationship between him and Abby, I thought was very sweet. Like it's very cute. Like it's, because everything's been so artificial up until then, when you see them kind of make a genuine connection, it's nice. It's, he sends her the ticket and she gives him this little paper penguin that she made, like origami folding. And in the end, I noticed in his penthouse, there was a penguin statue in there. Like he's still holding on to
that's
all
cool.
of this. He's still like, dealing with what happened because he accidentally participated in her exploitation, He
Well,
didn't mean to, but he did.
he did, and there lies another morality question, right? At the end of the day, does that help or hurt her?
Right.
Except for I don't was that if that was her in that last like pornographical scene,
Mm-hmm.
it was very uncomfortable because
Yeah.
again, it looked like she wasn't a willing participant in what was happening.
No.
And that was very, very like I got goosebumps just thinking about it because it kind of made me feel super icky.
Yeah.
Joey, did you read the trivia on this one?
On IMDb or
Yeah,
I read a bunch. I read some Wikipedia and
Yeah, so
there's a nice long article on Wiki about it.
Yeah.
yeah, did you read that about that the three judges we talked about, one of them's named Wraith,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman's named Charity, and the other guy that is kind of the Simon Cowell guy is Hope. So
Okay.
and I guess it's really some a Bible verse, but basically like it's interesting because he's always the guy who's Hope is always the first one to comment. So he's the one that you're kind of going to looking for hope, and then Charity chimes in to try to soften the blow, and then Wraith like swings in to try to seduce you. So I thought that was an interesting kind of progression in there.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then another thing that they talked about is that like they tried to set up some ambiguity on whether the cycling actually does anything,
Right.
so because they talk about how it's supposed to be creating electricity.
Mhm.
But like that, at one point they talked about putting something in the episode where like they find out that it's not actually doesn't actually do anything. It's
just keeping them
literally
busy.
a mouse on the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
This episode makes me feel tired, man. Like it's like at the end of it, I feel angry and tired.
I said last week, Jody, that I think Jason just thought we were having too much fun with Tales from the Crypt because let's bring this shit down a notch. But
no kidding, man.
But the one thing I do love about so far, just the two episodes we've done, is the conversation it brings up and the way it makes me think. And I watched a lot of the stuff when it came out, whatever, 8-10 years ago. Has it been that long?
Yeah.
And I think watching it again now with 8 to 10, was it 8 years ago? 2015, 16?
2011.
2011.
I mean, it might come to Netflix later, so that's probably
but what I mean though is I feel like I'm watching it with a different set of eyes now, and probably for the better that I'm more I don't know, more aware of what's happening. And it kind of makes me think sometimes when I see stuff like this, or you mentioned Network, which I haven't seen, but I know the premise of, and They Live, where you see these movies and these television shows that kind of mimic what's happening in our world, and it's like, what are these people? Do these people know something that they're trying to tell us?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's weird going back to them like 20, 30 years after they were made, like, oh, this is still just as relevant, if not even more obvious.
Oh, They Live it gets more relevant as the years go on. Like I remember watching that in the 90s, and I was like 15 or 16, and then watching it now, it's like, oh, it's way different. And but that's also the again, much like Black Mirror here, that's also a credit to the filmmakers, the writers, et cetera, for making a piece of media that can fit in with all these different time periods. Much like Black Sabbath War Pigs is still relevant today.
Right.
Yeah, no, I had read that this was actually one of the first episodes written of the series before the national anthem one last week.
His wife, Charlie Brooker's wife, I can't remember her name. She's actually pretty famous in England. I think she wrote it, right?
Yeah.
Right. She was co-writer with him.
Okay.
But the rant at the end was a Charlie Brooker rant, basically, about society and artificiality. Like he wrote that rant and did it with Daniel Kaluuya. Because I'm sure, like on a personal level, this is him, right? Like he rails against the media, he rails against politicians, but he's part of the same system. He's on TV. Well, so
I remember reading his wife kind of had the idea for the episode because she kind of told him one time, I think you'd be perfectly happy in a room by yourself with just your media.
Yeah.
Ouch. That kind of hurts.
But you know what though? Like, I mean, let's be honest, right? How many of us, when I come home from work, I do. I want to throw on records and listen to media, listen to music. I want to when my wife and I are on the couch, we're gonna throw a movie on, or throw TV on, or something.
Playing video games,
yeah. We're
it really does hit a little close, man.
Or if you're reading a book, dude, it's the same. It's still media, right? And I don't. I never want to get into this. Like, again, we're talking about an episode where they talk about the consumption of media by the masses and how it controls us. It's true on many, many different levels, which is why, again, I don't know if you guys know this, but I practice in an art form called jujitsu.
Oh,
And
really?
I don't know if I've ever talked about it before on the show. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
You can bring that up more.
And for Jody's kids that do karate and are good at karate, I think that those are some of the last bastions you have of, or kids playing sports in high school, of true, like, authentic playtime outside of media.
Yeah.
And I am a big proponent that as adults, the thing I learned from jiu-jitsu more than anything is that adults need that playtime. No matter what it is, whether it's jiu-jitsu or you go take walks or you do pickleball. Pickleball's big, or dude, fucking, like, it sounds kind of edgy, but S&M is the same thing. Like, BDSM is basically adults playing with toys. And I think it's something we lose as we get older, and the toys are way cooler though. Except for, I think you.
Okay, we're that.
I have a really great Optimus Prime.
Which toys are we still on BDSM when you're talking about the toys?
I mean,
I bought that remote control Godzilla. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Oh, dude, you haven't, Jody. I'm gonna send you a video after we're done. The remote control Godzilla. You press the button, and its spine lights up, and it breathes out a mist, and it looks like radioactive breath.
Cool.
Fucking best $60 I've ever spent at Target in my life. But that is not.
I was saying pick up basketball, not pickleball.
Oh no, I said pickleball.
Oh, okay. You said pickleball. Okay.
Yeah, pickleball is actually. What's funny is I used to know this guy I used to work with who was in his 80s that started a pickleball league in his retirement community, and then a few years later, I just heard all this stuff about how it became kind of a big deal. A lot of people like playing pickleball. I don't know what it is still. It seems like tennis.
Yeah, something like that. But you know, I'm emerging from this week of being at home all week, and like I have my office, and you can see parts of it if you're watching the video. You can see stuff behind me. I have tons of action figures and stuff like that.
Me too.
And it's really cool, and it makes me happy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, my life can't be made of like plastic toys and movies, and like, you have to have something real from time to time. You know, like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was going for. I think, you know, you were talking about playtime. You know, it does me good when the weather is good and I get to go outside and go, like, hike or walk or just be a human outdoors, without my phone for a little while. And I don't think I get enough of that. I know I don't. It's like,
I was really eye-opening when I was at that Metal Fest in Wyoming a couple years ago, because that's how it was. We had no cell phone reception, and it was just in the middle, in nature, and watching metal bands play. So yeah, I was consuming media while I was doing it, but God, it was just like a beautiful just atmosphere, and it was kind of cool to be disconnected.
There's something different about live music too, I think. Like, with real people standing up there in front of you compared to just, listening to Spotify. Like,
I think that's amazing.
We have access to like every movie and every song ever written all the time, but also, like, I don't know if it's good for us all the time, know?
One thing I love about vinyl, here, I'm going to move my camera over so you guys can see my vinyl collection. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at that album cover. That's Mortician. Chainsaw Dismemberment. That's a cool album cover. Not a great record, but a cool album cover that I really is nostalgic for me. But I think one thing about physical media, whether it be a Blu-ray, even like the act of having to get up and put it in the machine, and now you've made a conscious choice and you're locked into this movie, right? Or you're locked into this album. I think that actually gives us a greater connection to the media than when you can just pick. Man, like I just watched the TED series on Peacock, and really enjoyed it. Had a great time, but I just watched 8 episodes, and I can tell you maybe 4 or 5 things that happened from it, because I was doing other things while I was watching it, and it was kind of background noise. And I'm almost discrediting the media because it's actually really good, but it's just I think streaming is just a little bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, I get that. There's a reason why we're all nostalgic for the video stores. That time of going and really carefully considering and picking something up. Yeah. That's different than scrolling through Netflix,
But just
you remember
the excitement of it.
I was thinking, but do you remember the frustration of having to rewind the video and wait?
No, never bothered me. That's just part of it.
It never bothered me when my family wouldn't rewind.
I'm very much of two minds about all this. I love that we have this kind of access. It's incredible. but also I miss when things were a little less, digital.
I don't think it's any worse. When people say it's worse, I think that's really a Luddite I get Luddite. Did I say, did I pronounce that right, or Luddite thing to say? It's just different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different, and again, I also I'd love to get this would have been a good episode actually to have some of our younger like maybe my daughter on or something like that, because I don't know if they have that same connection to the media they consume via streaming. Whereas I think for us, maybe it is a little bit of nostalgia, because we remember how it used to be, and the connection we had to when you bought an album and physically had to put your hands on it and open that CD case with the annoying fucking stickers on it and, and put it in your stereo.
All right. Well, let's wrap up our review. Like I said, we're still doing our out of 5 stars. Jody, what do you give this episode?
For me, this is a 5-star.
All right, Mondo.
Man, I was going to go less, but the more we talk about it and the more I have to love anything that can bring forth this conversation, as much passion, I'm going to give it a 5. That's 2 for 2 5s in my opinion. And realistically, if I could go back a week, I'd probably give last week's a 4.5, because I do think this is a better episode.
I'm going 4.5. Just
you would
slightly, like for the reasons I said.
Does James even like Black Mirror?
Here we go again.
As if 4.5 is a bad rating, right? Like,
I know. No, it didn't move as much as the one before that. And that's just a personal taste, just a slight nitpick.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that realistically, sometimes like having these discussions, this discussion definitely took it, because my original brain said 4.5. And the more we talked about it, I'm like, nah, this is a 5. But I am with you, Jason. I do think it's a little bit long in the tooth, and they could have cut a little bit out and maybe got it down to maybe 55 minutes or so.
Yeah, just a slight.
Yeah, I think in the end, the reason I end up with a 5 for this one is, I watched it 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever. But I'm still, even though I've already seen it and I rewatched it, I'm probably going to be thinking about this all next week. Like, this is going to be playing in my head all week long for this 1 hour of media that I watch. So that's worth something to me.
Definitely.
All right, Mondo, give us your song of the day.
Alrighty. So, after watching this episode, as I burp into the microphone, I apologize to anyone out there that's offended by burping, but what are you going to do? We're all old fuckers. There's a band who came out in the early 90s by the name of Dying Fetus. Kind of the joke was, if we name our band Dying Fetus, it's obviously for shock value as part of it. But they released their first, they did some demos. Infatuation with Malevolence was their demo from 94. And then they released Purification Through Violence, which recently got a vinyl release. And I was kind of interested on it because when the CD was out, they had some questionable intros of some of the songs that when I was 17, I'm like, haha, this is cool. But at 40, I'm like, not so much. And they took those intros out, which people got mad about. But I'm like, dude, it's 2024. It's okay for a band to rethink. Maybe we shouldn't have put that in there. Then they released the Grotesque Impalement EP, which is amazing. Everyone should listen to Grotesque Impalement. They released Killing on Adrenaline, which had the famous song of "Kill Your Mother and Rape Your Dog," which is about the whole song is about the music industry. I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, it makes sense. And they might be able to sing is like, oh, why do we name it that? But it makes sense when you listen to the song. Right. But then in 2000, they released a groundbreaking album called "Destroy the Opposition." And I'll tell you guys, just Google it, look at the album cover, because it'll kind of make sense. And they got really political. And for all the right reasons. I mean, the frontman, John Gallagher, has always been a staple in the band, lead guitarist, and he does all the Cookie Monster gurgly vocals, that kind of stuff. And Jason Neherton, who eventually started Misery Index, because I think John Gallagher is notoriously hard to work with. But he was an original member and started Misery Index. And he actually used to run a website called demockery.org, which think of it as like, I don't want to call it Drudge Report, but the GUI was very similar to Drudge Report, as in it was just a list of all this stuff, and he would really seek out like this is the shitty things that America is doing. This is the shitty things other countries are doing. But Destroy the Opposition was a very political record with a really, really profound message in a lot of the songs. And when I watching this episode, the first song that popped in my mind right away was our song off that record called Pissing in the Mainstream, which kind of means what it says, but the very last verse of this lyrically fits in with this episode so well. And I'm going to recite the lyrics here. It says, the bottom line is money on the Western power scene, where celebrities and porn can let the population dream. They're pathetic humans living in an advertising glut who devour with the passion what the mainstream vomits up. And I thought that was like perfectly like poignant for this episode. And if you look back on it, granted the album came out 24 years ago, all the people in the band are almost like 50 now. It's a little bit sophomore, and I don't hold that against bands that did that stuff in their young days. But there's a lot of really, really great stuff on this album. The one knock on it, and this is not really a knock, but it kind of spawned deathcore, which I fucking hate. I hate that genre because it's all a bunch of bands trying to do it like this, but can't do it as well as Dying Fetus ever did. So I would tell everyone check out the entire album, Dying Fetus, Destroy the Opposition. One of my favorite albums of all time. I still remember ordering this in high school and getting it and just dropping my jaw at how great the drummer Kevin Talley was. And if you look at Kevin Talley's credits, he's played in like 40 different bands. Just unreal drummer. Destroy song of the week, Dying Fetus, Destroy the Opposition. The song is Pissing in the Mainstream.
That reminds me of when I bought my first Nirvana album, and my parents were looking at it. I know.
What a and there's nothing wrong with Nirvana, dude. What a drastic.
Because there was a song on the album called "Rape Me."
Oh yeah,
and they were like, "We don't know about that."
I saw a meme that day that says, "Oh hey, you're a Nirvana fan? Tell me 3 things about chakras and enlightenment, then."
Yeah,
that's great. There was also a great TikTok video this guy did where he goes, this is how not to deal with another human being. And the guy's got an AC/DC shirt on. And the guy was, hey, man, nice AC/DC shirt. Name 3 songs. He goes, how you should deal with the situation. He goes, hey, man, nice AC/DC shirt. They fucking suck. Not a knock on AC/DC. Actually, AC/DC, if you ever listen to a full record, their deep cuts are better than their radio hits. Just saying. Not my cup of tea, really, but they do have some really, really good songs.
I did see. I haven't watched the video yet, but Foo Fighters were doing a concert recently, and they had Jack Black come up, and they did a cover of AC/DC's "Balls."
I've
got balls.
Yeah. Jack Black singing that sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
You've got the biggest balls. There's a band.
That was playing on the radio.
Yeah,
weird song to play on the radio.
I've talked about it before. How everyone, older people, act like their era of music was innocent. Dude, if you ever want to see like pedophilia in action, just fucking listen to Ted Nugent's lyrics.
Yeah.
Like that dude is not okay. Just gonna say like.
All right.
He came out as being not okay, and then you look back at his lyrics like, oh yeah, it was all right there.
It's always like this. Yeah.
All right, Jody, give us some horror news.
All right, so we got a couple releases to mention. Founders Day. I didn't even realize this actually came out a couple days ago on January 19th. It's in theaters right now, so go check out Founders Day. I am all for this slasher revival we've got going.
Me too.
And speaking of. Thanksgiving just came out on digital and will be coming to Blu-ray and DVD on January 30th. So if you need more Thanksgiving in your life, and I certainly do, I've rewatched it since it's come on digital, and I love it. It's great.
It holds up.
I watched it the second time.
Number one.
I might have enjoyed it more my second watch.
Yeah.
Because knowing the ending and being able to like pick out little pieces, I thought was really, really fun.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's the reason that it was my favorite movie of the year last year, and on the rewatch, I'm like, I still stand by my decision there. A couple other release things. Severin is releasing a bunch of new stuff, as they always do, and one of the ones they're doing is the classic Burial Ground with the weird little man with the bowl cut, who is supposedly a kid, but like is a dude in his 30s. You can now buy your own pillowcase with his face on it, with that 1,000-yard stare that he has. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please look up Burial Ground, and you will immediately see this weird little man who's playing a child.
It's
one of the weirdest movies. It is so weird,
dude. That pillow is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. First of all, if you're single out there, don't have that pillow and bring a date over to your apartment, your house.
No. That's an ender right there. That's the end of the night.
I kind of enjoy that movie. If I went to someone's house and I had that pillow, I'm probably gonna leave.
I like that movie. It's not for everybody though. Let's say that. A couple other things. Let's talk video games. David F. Sandberg, the guy who did, I think he did Lights Out. He's been doing the Shazam movies too. He's done several horror things. But he is directing a movie adaptation of Until Dawn, the video game that came out a couple years ago on PS3.
First of all, a couple years ago, like 8 to 10 years, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know, it's a long time. Until Dawn's a fun game. It's a great game. It's basically a choose your own adventure slasher movie that you get to try to get through without all your people dying. A lot of fun. I'm excited for a movie adaptation of it because it basically is a movie to begin with. So
it's a fun story too. I thought that was
fun.
I loved that game enough to spend $70 to pre-order the sequel and have yet to play it because I don't have time.
The Quarry?
Yes.
Yeah, I played through the Quarry and ended up liking it quite a bit too. So
it's every time I'm trying to play Alan Wake 2 right now, and that alone is going to take me the next 2 to 3 years to beat. So we'll see what happens.
But speaking of, real quick, while we're on Alan Wake 2, man, what a fantastic game. I am so excited to keep playing this game.
I'm only an hour in, and usually they have a narrative where you have to go into the dreamlike states where you're back and you're in your mind, looking at evidence, and usually I hate that. But the story is so intriguing and is done so well that I really enjoy it. I'm taking my time.
Yeah.
I want to find every piece of evidence and research every piece of evidence. And
this is one of those games this is one of those games where I look in every corner of everything. I take my time because I want to find everything. They've done a really cool thing of making you figure out the story so that you actually get the whole story as you go through. So it's really cool. Another game coming out that is not horror, but Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will be coming later this year, made by Machine Games, who made all the Wolfenstein games.
Mm-hmm. It looks good.
For that. Yeah. I want to see Indiana Jones as a video game. Sounds freaking awesome.
So what do you think? Do you think it'll win Best Indie Game of the Year?
Yeah.
And one more that I wanted to mention, a trailer just released for a movie by Nick Frost, or Nick Frost is in it, called Crazy House, and it's spelled with a K. It's like a 90s sitcom family, and there's Russian workers who want to, they're wanted criminals, but it's all set in this sitcom-y world. Looks like a lot of fun. Nick Frost is he's the other guy in all the Coronado trilogy. The
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz,
Shaun of the Dead,
and World's End.
Yeah. He's the dark-haired guy, but like him a lot, and this looks like a fun premise. Definitely worth check out that trailer.
He's fun in pretty much everything he's in.
Yeah. Another British actor. So you're just getting more Britishness.
All right. Thank you, Jody. Okay, as we announced last week, we're doing a new segment called the Out of Touch Dad, where we try to figure out what words that the young people are using.
I forgot about this. I forgot all about this. Do you have a word?
I'm putting this week's word in the chat. If you have words that you want us to, you want to see if we know what it means, please, you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter, or send an email to dadsfromthecrypt@gmail.com. This week's word, Mondo, Jody, can you look this up for me? I'm not sure if I know how to say this right. Mondo, you're laughing already. Do you know this word?
I don't know how to read the word. Chuggy?
Chuggy? Chuggy? CHUGY. Our patron Ashton said that these are phrases my college students have said, and that they've had to explain to me. So
hold on for a second. Like, I thought we were doing like high school, middle school kids. I feel even way older now than college kids.
But I don't understand college student slang.
All right,
it's a fine line between.
Oh God.
All right, so I don't know. This sounds like a kind of a nasty word in a way. Like it sounds like you gave someone a chuggy. I don't know.
So if you gave someone a chuggy, Jason, what would you do to them?
I have no idea, but I don't think it's something they'd like.
I mean, we don't kink shame here on Dads from the Crypt.
In general, though, I mean, someone might be into chugging, but
I first read it as chuggy, and I was thinking, is that like this new fangled thing where kids butt chug things? Like, you've heard of that? Like, heard of that?
Yeah, if you or whatever.
Yeah, if you take if you take vodka and like just enema into your asshole, it's supposed to get you drunker quicker, but it'll probably kill you too.
Don't do that. Just don't do that.
Don't do enema or don't do an enema with vodka, because I mean, some people have to do the former.
Well, yeah, with vodka.
Yeah. Jody, do you have any clues on what this word means?
Man, I don't know. One of my kids is playing Pokemon. It sounds like a nasty Pokemon, like that you don't want to catch.
There's one, I think it's...
like a Pokemon with an STD.
There is a Pokemon. I think it's a Pokemon called a Chungus.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
You can say any like combination of sounds, and there's probably a Pokemon with it by now.
Sure.
All right,
Jason, do you know what this means?
What does it mean?
Can you help us? No, I'm asking.
Oh, that's one of you guys to Google it.
I have I have pulled it up onto Urban Dictionary, and the problem is there's like 8 different definitions. Should I just take the most recent one?
Yeah, or like the most popular. This is excellent.
Yeah, I can't read that one because it doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna read the top one, which says the opposite of trendy. Maybe stylish in middle school and high school, but no longer in style. Used when someone still follows these out-of-date trends. This may include, but not be limited to, fashion, habits on social media, usage of slang, etc. To use that in a sentence, it would be, my friend told me to change out of my favorite pair of Miss Me jeans because they were chuggy.
Miss Me jeans?
That was actually written 2018, if you want to feel even older. So that's 6 years ago. And the person that submitted it, their handle is Chug Life, which that makes me happy.
So I definitely think my kids would call me Chuggy.
I was going to say, so chuggy describes being in your 40s, right?
Yeah.
At least as far as how the teenagers look at you.
I have to read this second definition. It says, another way to describe aesthetics, people, or experiences that are basic. It was coined by a now 23-year-old white woman in 2013 while a student at Beverly Hills High School, on whom the irony is apparently lost. According to the New York Times, chuggy, pronounced chew, G, can be used broadly to describe someone who is out of date or trying too hard.
Right.
Okay. So, example, did you read the article in New York Times about chuggy? It was pretty chuggy. Nice. Person number 2. Yeah, they keep trying to make chuggy happen. Person number 1. Don't worry, it's not going to happen.
That's so chuggy.
Okay, so weirdly enough, though, in the games Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, a professor asks you what it means, and you have to answer old and outdated. So apparently the Pokemon connection was already there the whole time.
Well, my son's playing Scarlet right now, so this is like some
okay. Well, you can help him when he gets to the Chuggy question. If he's like, I don't know what this means.
Man, he was trying to find like a bottle cap or something in the game, and I googled how to find it, and he couldn't find it. It turns out he needed to like beat like another gym. And he had like a full-on meltdown. I mean, that's typical autistic child behavior, but
yeah. I mean, we should get your oldest. We should get your oldest son on here, and we'll throw him slang from when we were young and see if he can get it. Fucking
All
old
right.
people.
Throw him some chuggy slang, you might say.
Speaking of dumb parts in video games, my buddy just beat Simon's Quest for Castlevania 2 for the first time.
Wow.
And I remember as a kid, I had to buy a strategy guide to beat that game because nowhere in the game does it tell you have to hold a crystal in your hand or Dracula's heart in your hand and kneel for 2.5 fucking minutes to get some passageway to open up.
How did we ever win video games before we could look it up?
Dude, I have the Mega Man collection, and I started playing it on Steam, on my Steam Deck. Dude, I about threw my Steam Deck across the room. I was
For which game?
The Mega Man collection. I was playing Mega Man 3.
Mega Man is so hard. It's so hard now.
It is. And I finally got to the very last stage, and after like 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm just not going to beat it. That's all there is to it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. And then our Patreon question of the week is, if you were to enter a talent competition, what talent would you present? Our friend Alyssa said either just singing boring or my uncanny Snow White impression, unhinged. Now, Alyssa, we need to hear your Snow White impression.
You can't just put that out there.
Yeah, can we get Alyssa back on the show so we can hear this?
Work on it. All right, Ashton said pumpkin/watermelon carving. I'm handy with an X-Acto knife, which sounds also kind of terrifying.
Okay.
I also need Ashton. I'm going to need you to send us some of your pumpkin carvings or your watermelon carvings because that sounds fucking cool.
Our friend Whitney says I'm really good at making a turkey gobble sound, so probably that. Again, Whitney, come on and show us your gobbling noise.
Guys,
we're down.
All of these things.
We're down.
And then our friend Tommy says functioning on no sleep, which is, kind of like being a parent.
Yeah, it's like
For a guy who doesn't have kids. What would you guys go on a talent composition for?
I feel like I'm not really great at anything. I'm just good at I'm okay at some stuff. So I don't know. It'd be a tough one.
What about something really mundane like raking leaves? I would say I do good PowerPoints. That would be my thing.
Jason would get up there and open up his laptop. All right, let me show you this Excel sheet. These formulas are going to blow your mind.
My pivot table rocks.
Yeah. Oh,
I can crack my knuckle by doing this. Can you hear that?
I can.
Yeah, nice.
That's very good, by the way. That is early onset arthritis.
That's got to sound good. Our listeners who right now are listening to this with headphones, hearing that crackle in their head. That's awesome.
I'm gonna put some reverb behind it when I edit it to make it.
There we go. Just do a little remix.
I don't know. I don't think I'm that good at it, but I used to do chorus and stuff like that. I used to sing in high school, so I guess that that would be the thing that I would go, okay, well, sure, that's something. I can also rap a whole lot of 90s songs that I still know all the words to. I have no flow, but I do know the words. See, I see Jason's face, and we're doing that thing where we were saying you have to actually demonstrate it now. No, I don't. No.
You know what this sounds like? This sounds like when we all have a meetup or get to a meetup, we're doing some karaoke, and Jody and I are going to tag team Dr. Dre and Ice Cube's Natural Born Killers.
That sounds excellent.
You don't have to do it, but
we're going to edit some words out of there.
Yes.
I'm leaving the stage.
Jody, what are some songs that you could do if you were so inclined or inebriated enough?
And yes, inebriated is the key there. Jump Around by House of Pain is definitely one.
That is the whitest answer you ever could have.
Oh, wait, hang on. That was the first one. This is the one that comes to mind. Also, anything from the early Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, especially stuff like Who Am I, What's My Name by Snoop Dogg. Murder Was the Case They Gave Me. The early stuff, late 90s stuff.
That Murder Was the Case soundtrack, by the way, fucking phenomenal. I love that soundtrack.
It's good stuff. Biggie. A lot of that. Tupac.
Have you seen that video of Big E when he was 17, just rapping on the streets of New York?
He's freestyling on. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I'm not a huge rap fan, but I have nothing but respect for Big E. But hearing that gave me goosebumps. I'm like, holy shit! At 17, just how good he was. I was like, holy crap.
Well, yeah, no, it was not that long ago that I was reading something or listening to something. and I found out that they were just both Biggie and Tupac were like 24 years old when they died, which absolutely blows my mind.
It's sad.
Also, I mean, Biggie, Sean Carter, and Busta Rhymes were all like at high school around the same time.
Yeah.
Like they all like were in the connected classes. Like one of them was a senior, one of them was a freshman.
It reminds, and I hate to bring us back to pro wrestling, but it reminds me of pro wrestling because there's a high school in Minnesota that like Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect and Razor Ramon all went to, and then in Texas you had the West Texas University, which Steve Austin and the Von Erichs and all of them played football at. It's just so crazy how they spawned all this talent.
Yeah,
and I think the best story is that Cameron Diaz used to buy weed from Snoop Dogg in high school.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, when I think of like Biggie and Tupac, I as a kid, I thought they were like these cool, like older people, and they were just kids. They were kids too. It's insane.
Yeah. All right.
Oh wait, Jason, you never said what you'd do, did you? Oh,
no,
you
I did PowerPoints.
Oh, I didn't say what I would do. I don't know. I wouldn't do anything. I don't know.
My director did give me a compliment on the PowerPoint I made this week, so I was very happy.
I can show people how to do a rear naked choke poorly. That's not my forte. I have a really good head and arm choke, though. I could show that off. And I can play guitar poorly, too, if you just like to see my right hand move as fast as possible and my left hand do not much, which is also the name of my sex tape with Marilyn.
Is that what Kelsey said?
I was like a third person listening to myself say this, like, stop.
Which is also what she says.
First of all, if she says stop, you should stop and walk away. Like that is the end of it. I'm just if anybody says stop, you walk away. Just saying. Also on Dads in the Crypt, we're big fans of consent.
There you go.
That's our dad advice for the week. Consent.
I have some dad advice. We do some dad advice still?
Yeah, do it real quick.
I do have some because I was thinking about it today. So a friend of mine who used to work at Apple, she's a flight attendant now, Brittany. Huge Packers fan. They obviously lost this week to my team.
But they overachieved just for the
they played great, man. It's like there's nothing to be ashamed of. But I think one of her relatives went on her Facebook page and just trashed her over it. Like, fuck the. And all I'm gonna say is, sometimes taking the high road is the best way to go. I don't talk shit when it comes to sports or when it comes to whatever, because someone's already feeling bummed out because their team lost. Why am I going to kick them while they're down? Yeah. Why am I going to make someone feel worse about their situation when we should be really trying to lift each other up as human beings? Just saying. Life's too short.
That's one of those things that
and I post that Demon Knight clip, the fuck this cowboy shit, because people love it when I do that. So.
It's okay, but it's a big difference. So like when people poke fun at heavy metal or something, I don't care. Like I just laugh at it because I think it's done in jest. But like when you have people that are really have an emotional tie to us, maybe it's kind of dumb we have emotional ties to sports teams, but I do. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like. There'll be people who come out of the woodwork who've never once talked to you about sports that can't wait to shit on you when your team loses, and. It's one of those things like, why if you're my friend, why do you want me to feel worse about my situation?
I mean, that's one of those conversations I have with my kids, like outside of sports or anything. Like I have a 7-year-old little boy, and 7-year-old little boys like to be a pain in the ass. Like that's just part of their makeup is they enjoy aggravating. And I talk to them all the time though. And just like, bud, like, you're doing things to make people mad and people are getting upset and people are frustrated. Is that making things better around here or worse? Like when you're making everyone around you mad, like you're making your own situation bad. Like don't be mean. Don't make people upset for no good reason. Don't be a jerk.
That's a good way to put it. And that's why I don't like going to, I still remember when the 49ers lost to the Ravens back in 2013 in the Super Bowl. My buddy John, who's a diehard Niners fan, goes, "Hey, we're all going to this Niners bar. Let's go to this Niners bar together." And I was just like, nah, I'm going to go watch it at my favorite brewery because if we lose, I'm not going to be surrounded by a bunch of pissed off people.
Yeah.
I'm going to be surrounded by a lot of people that don't care. And that's kind of the best thing to do, really, is that people feed off. Like, I don't want to feed off negativity because it just makes you negative and makes you angry. Like, have some positivity in your life. If my friend Christine, who's a diehard Packers fan, texts me after the game, and she's like, "Man, good game." And I was like, "Yeah, it was a good game, man. Your guys played awesome." I said, "Man, I would not have been upset to lose to you guys." And we had a cool conversation about it, which is what it really should be. And at the end of the day, it's just fucking sports. At the end of the day. The Niners win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to get a paycheck in the mail. Although if anyone from the Niners are listening,
a way to make that work, though.
Hey, if anyone from the Niners are listening and want to send me like a T-shirt, that'd be kind of cool.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Next week, we'll be looking back into the Black Mirror with Season 1, Episode 3, The Entire History of You.
It's a good one.
We appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you would give us a rating and review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Adios.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.